Okay, everybody on Twitch, stand by. We've got to get YouTube up to speed here in just a minute. Make certain everybody is where they can see all of this in just a little bit. If you're just tuning in for the first time around, first of all, thanks for joining us. It's nice to have everybody around. If you have any questions about what's going on with the forecast, we'd love to know more about what you're seeing in your location. So go ahead and drop a comment, a location into the chat function. And let's see what we can learn for tonight. If you haven't tuned in here before, again, I'm Chief Meteorologist Austin Onek. Let me correct the date on YouTube here real quick. It is Tuesday, the 9th of July, 1 month and 9 days into hurricane season. That looks like it's working pretty well. We may have had a glitch in our system, so if you're looking at the 7-day forecast in the bottom left-hand section of your screen, may be a little bit off. We're not expecting a high temperature of 96 on Tuesday. We are going to be seeing the potential of a lot less heat, at least into tomorrow. And then the rest of that 7-day forecast is going to be showing a lot more accurately toward the end of the week and toward next week, some very way up there temperatures. So unfortunately, I wish I had better news, but things are going to be rather on the sultry side for the next couple of days. And also, unfortunately, as we go into the next few days toward next week, middle point of July, we could be seeing the potential of some dangerously high temperatures around this area. Right now, things are quiet. We're getting the remnants of Beryl moving on through. We had some rain and showers earlier. Downtown Bailey's Heating and Air Camera. All these cameras available on the EPB Fiber Optics WeatherCam network if you'd like to take a look around at WDEF.com/weather. Pretty heavy downpours earlier tonight, and as of right now, clouds breaking up a little bit, but still mostly cloudy across much of the area. Roads are in pretty good shape. They're damp, if anything. Traffic was pretty heavy during those downpours at 153 and 64 on the Plainview Outdoor Advertising camera for this evening. Downtown at the News 12 studios overlooking Lookout Mountain and Broad Street down toward the bottom here. Can barely see off to the west. I'll have to turn that around for the 11 o'clock show. From 2475 South Central Chattanooga, overlooking CHI Memorial Stadium and looking off to the west, I believe. Again, that is showing where we had apparently a pretty decent sunset from earlier tonight. Chattanooga Theater Center overlooking that area off toward Raccoon Mountain in the distance. And also seeing, again, a few folks out and about on the footbridge, but it's a very sultry evening to be out and about for tonight. More clouds, Erlanger Hospital, way over toward the right-hand corner of your screen, and that's on the Chattanooga Zoo Q and Brew camera. That'll be coming up this weekend on the 13th. If you'd like to find out more, go to the Chattanooga Zoo social media page or their web page for more. Temperatures at the airport back in the lower 80s, and with the extra humidity, we've got temperatures way up into the lower 90s. The heat index at 10 o'clock at night pretty much is way up there. So it's, again, a very sultry evening, not the time to go out for a huge amount of exertion out there, especially with those temperatures, because we are continuing to see some very warm numbers across much of the area, lower to mid 80s for the most part. A few lower 70s showing up in the highlands of western North Carolina. Right now, beyond that, there's really just not that much in the way of cool air. Add to that, the winds are coming in from out of the south, so we do not have much of anything else going on in the way of very cool air anytime soon. Now tomorrow, yes, we're going to get a bit of a break, but that is not really going to be helping us all that much into tomorrow. So it'll help a little bit, but I just wish it could be a little bit on the little bit more cool air coming our direction. That would be kind of nice to have. Radar is showing a line of thunderstorms trying to develop back to our west from Murfreesboro down to about Huntsville. Atmosphere's kind of had the energy taken out of it for now, but it is possible that we could see some more thunderstorms developing in the next couple of hours as long as this line moves on through. What's left of our thunderstorms from earlier, Knoxville down to Athens, Georgia, that was occasionally severe, and the worst amount of lightning back into western North Carolina, east of Cherokee County, moving up toward the Tennessee-North Carolina line. There's really just not that much going on left over, but I would not be surprised to see some rumbles of thunder overnight. The best possibility of severe weather is well to our north, and we'll talk more about that coming up here in just a little while. Beryl, what is left of it, it is now a post-tropical cyclone. It is now way off the ocean surface, so forecasting duty has now fallen to the Weather Prediction Center instead of the National Hurricane Center. So what you're looking at here is the remnant low, and if you notice, it just kind of stops right about the Mississippi River because the tracking has ended on this. The storm itself is still making its way through the upper Ohio Valley over toward the Great Lakes, and it is still drawing in a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. So we have a lot in the way of more hours of humidity. Nothing really much in the way of heat. We will begin to see the winds kind of switch a little bit as that area of low pressure tracks north and west of us for tonight, and we will get kind of a break out of that coming up. So what exactly are we looking for? That was just about a week ago. That was a Category 5 hurricane with wind gusts of 200 plus miles per hour. Now it is just a run-of-the-mill weakening storm system, and you can kind of see where the wind shift line is occurring just a little bit, where that front is going through. We may see some more activity out of this in the next few hours, but here's the one thing to notice. This area of low pressure, lows in the northern hemisphere rotate counterclockwise, so this is still helping. You notice the wind arrows here coming in from off the Atlantic and down from off the Gulf of Mexico. As we school out here just a little bit, we are seeing a couple things happening. Number one, plenty of moisture ahead of that front, and then secondly, off to the west, high pressure over the high plains, and that rotation counterclockwise here, helping to escort in a very generous amount of dry air and a little bit of that heat, it looks like, from that heat dome out west. Portions of southern Canada helping out with this. You don't see much going on. The clouds and the rain around the area of low pressure, that's about it. We've got several days worth of sunshine coming our direction, and that is where we're going to see the potential of the heat building up into the next several days. So we do see the potential of maybe some more problems with temperatures as long as this dry air is around. Next best chance of anything involving rainfall is going to be several days out, as in possibly next week. So we will see a chance of a shower maybe lingering around the plateau and back up into Kentucky by tomorrow morning. But the big effect is going to be the passage of the front trailing that storm system. So highs tomorrow will be just at to right below normal. Normal for this time of the year is about 90 degrees, so that'll help out a lot. But as we go into around Thursday afternoon, notice the bounce in the temperatures as we get back in the lower 90s easily enough, so we're back above normal on Thursday. And then as we go into Friday, area of low pressure develops on the east coast, keeping the warm, moist air off the outer banks and the coasts of Carolinas and Georgias. And then we see some much hotter weather with that sunshine starting to bake the temperatures. Low temperatures at night, high 60s to around Atlanta, maybe not lower than the mid to upper 70s. And then into the weekend itself, not a cool start to Saturday, and temperatures into Saturday afternoon could easily be in the higher 90s, and a good swath of triple digits registering here across much of the deep south. So good possibility of getting some very good roasting going on here into the course of the next several days. Not any chance of anything cooler happening anytime soon. From the area around Island Cove, you can see some of that fading sunlight out there. So going to be losing that in the course of the next several weeks as we get closer toward autumn. Again, tomorrow's temperature is looking pretty good, back in the mid to high 80s, even less hot in the higher elevations. And then over the next several days, days, high 90s. And unfortunately, as we go into the weekend and next week, no relief being seen here. Temperatures in the high 90s to triple digits, and that could last right on in through the middle portion of July. So this is going to be ramping up from where we go tomorrow and continuing very hot into the middle of next week. So if you don't have your AC fixed, hopefully you can get that taken care of very soon. If you're going to be working or exercising outdoors, time to plan ahead for the potential of anything involving very hot conditions, as in dangerously hot, as in heat injury possibility hot. So please keep an eye on yourself, everybody else. Remember to pack that water along to make certain you stay hydrated. Put back the water that your body sweats away. Take breaks doing exercise and work outside. And please keep an eye on each other to make certain that you are not in any health danger, because that can sneak up on you. Heat can be a killer, just like severe weather can. So it's definitely time to make certain you pay attention to, again, what is going on. All right, let's go out into the tropics real quick. What's left of Beryl, that storm system there. Right now, things are decently quiet. The Eastern Pacific and the whole Atlantic Basin is not showing a lot of anything. It looks like La Nina getting closer to that, excuse me, in the Eastern Pacific. And that's kind of helping to turn the tide downwards on anything developing. Several of these systems around the isthmus and into around the area of Panama and Central America might begin to develop into something, but so far it looks pretty quiet. And for the entire Atlantic Basin, things are very quiet. So what happened to all the activity we were looking at? Well, as of right now, the Sahara is opening up wide and sending tons of dust across the Atlantic, and that is helping to block out the sunshine, and that's helping to keep things a little quieter. So we're not seeing too much in the way of anything involving major amounts of development. Now, there are some spots in between here to where we could see a system begin to develop coming in from off the west coast of Africa. But notice that dust, pulses of it make its way all the way over into the Caribbean, into the Gulf, and almost right on top of us. So we might see some of that dust, if it curves northward, affecting our visibility here, if it's thick enough and if the pattern is right, and a lot of conditional phrases there, but that is what it has to happen for now. But for the good news, it looks like this next round of dust is going to be very thick, and that could help to keep the tropical activity to a bare minimum. Now, you may be saying, okay, that's great news. That'll keep things at bay for a while. Yes, it could, but things still could develop at just about any point in time. So this is why it's going to be necessary to make certain that we pay very close attention to what is going on. From the late Dr. William Gray and Colorado State University, that develops their own hurricane forecasts, the forecast from early April was issued, again, that was about 2 months before hurricane season began, and the average from 91 to 2020 in the middle here. Named storms usually about 14, hurricanes 7, and major hurricanes, that's category 3 and above, about 3 and just over that per year. Excuse me. Now, the forecast that was issued in April was calling for a way above normal on named storms, 23 named storms. That's pretty much, if that forecast holds true, it's going to take care of the entire Latin alphabet and possibly take us into the Greek letters again. Hurricanes now estimated 11, or earlier estimated at 11, and 5 for major hurricanes. Well, today, Colorado State issued an update, and they have now taken it from 23 named storms to 25, from 11 hurricanes to 12, and from major hurricanes from 5 to 6. And you may be saying, okay, well, technically, that doesn't sound like too much. It's only a couple of numbers upwards. But the main thing to think about this right here is we are going in the complete and total opposite direction of where we should be going. The ocean waters are still very warm. Accumulated cyclone energy, again, average across about a 30-year period, was at 123. That's how much energy accumulates in the top levels of the ocean. Now, usually when a hurricane or a storm goes over the ocean waters, colder water upwells as the storm dissipates the heat, and that cold water leaves a trail. We did get no such trail from Beryl or from Alberto or from Chris. We're up to the D name storm whenever that happens. But what we're looking at here is basically almost twice as much accumulated energy in the earlier forecast. Now we're seeing, again, well over that by almost a time and a half of accumulated energy of what could be there to spark more hurricanes with that very warm ocean water. So yes, it is only a minimal increase, but the big thing to take away from this is it is still an increase. So that is something to really watch out for. So that is why if you are going to be traveling any place around the tropics, you're going to have to watch very carefully what develops, because these temperatures that you see are rocket fuel for these storms to develop, and that is what we could be looking at in the near future. It's just going to take one system to latch onto this very warm, moist air coming in off the surface of the ocean to use that as its booster fuel to get going even faster. We saw it with Beryl as it went from a tropical storm to a major hurricane within a day or two, if that. So we could continue to see some more problems with these very warm waters. Anything above 80 degrees is where you're going to be seeing the main problems, and that goes all the way up the Gulf Stream to portions of the East Coast. Now, the very cold water off of Cape Cod and into around the Canadian Maritimes, that's very chilly, and that will sap a storm's strength. But it's all this stuff down here that we are having to concern ourselves with, and that is due to climate change, human-induced fossil fuel usage of climate change. That is us causing the ocean waters to rise, and rise spectacularly high, not even cooling off during the winter, and that is where we're going to be getting the more powerful and more unpredictable storms from in the semi-near future. Now, in the last few days and weeks, there's been a lot of calls politically for possibly doing something like getting rid of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, because they happen to talk about climate change and about the fact that humans are causing that and what it could lead to with forecast in the future. Those calls to eliminate NOAA, in my professional opinion, are very backwards and something to really take into account, to say, this is not something that we need to be doing at this point in time. If we just remove people talking about climate change, well, then the problem will go away. It doesn't work like that. That's not what science does. So if you would like to know more about what NOAA does at the local level, one of the National Weather Service offices that covers this location that News 12 broadcasts from in the News 12 viewing area around the Tennessee River Valley, we're covered by Atlanta, Huntsville, Nashville, and Morristown. They cover a good portion of southeast Tennessee right down to the Georgia state line. Well, they would like to invite you to an open house coming up in September. If you would like to know more about what the National Weather Service does, again, the National Weather Service is under the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is under the United States Department of Commerce, one of the cabinet positions for shipping and for studying weather and climatology and all of that information. That's under NOAA. So the big question is, if NOAA was dispersed, gotten rid of, axed, whatever euphemism you want to use, what would replace it and who would be replacing it? That is a very good question to ask yourself and your elected leaders. And if they don't know the answer, it may be time for them to start figuring that out before they start chopping blocks and getting rid of budgets. This is something that if you have a question about what's going on with the weather, the meteorologists and personnel at the National Weather Service would be glad to answer your questions. You can tour the office, ask questions of the meteorologists, learn how they issue the watches and warnings that protect you when severe weather is a real possibility. Watching a weather balloon launch, I would love to. I haven't seen that in decades. I would love to see that myself. But the important thing is, if you have questions, this is a perfect opportunity to ask what goes on. Whenever I hear somebody utter the fake epithet, the epithet fake news, 99% of those people who use that have never talked to a journalist or visited a newsroom in their entire life. So this is something that is really important to take a look at. This is a government agency that my tax dollars, your tax dollars pay for. And if you'd like to know more about what they do and why and how, this is a great opportunity. So the National Weather Service in Morristown at 5974 Commerce Boulevard in Morristown, Tennessee, this September 28th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you don't have to register. There are some rules. Support animals only. No alcohol on the premises, anything like that, as it is a government agency. So if you'd like to know more, head to their website, weather.gov/MRX, or please go to our website. We'll be posting the information on there a little bit later on. Again, you can go to WDEF.com/weather. This is a rare phenomenon. It's been happening a lot more in the last couple of decades, but it's rare for a National Weather Service to open up its offices this broadly to the public. They did it in Memphis for media personnel, emergency managers, people like that. But to get the public in here and say, please come and visit us, that is a very rare thing. And if you'd like to take advantage of this, this is a great opportunity to find out more about what this particular government agency does with its time, with its budget, with its efforts to keep people safe. Not only issuing severe weather, not only keeping an eye on the radar, but also making certain they keep an eye on local drought. They do outreach to various places. They teach your Skywarn meetings. If you'd like to have a question, if you have questions or like to offer a suggestion, perfect opportunity right here. Again, write this down, September 28th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Morristown, Tennessee, for an open house. Again, great opportunity to learn more. Definitely want to take advantage of that if you are able to do so. So please think about that. On our weather picture of the day, brought to you by Langley Roofing. I'm not too sure. I'm not an ornithologist. I didn't get the Care of Birds merit badge when I was a Boy Scout. Chickamauga Lake near Harrison Bluff, that was the location for a crane or a heron. I'm not too sure which one. Either way, whatever species we're talking about, thank you very much, News 12 viewer Tom Swanson from Chattanooga, Tennessee, for our weather picture of the day. The weather window brought to you by Langley Roofing. Thanks to everybody for sending in some excellent pictures out there. If you've got pictures, send them in to us, pictures@WDEF.com. You can send them to our social media pages, or you can drop them to our main photos page at WDEF.com/photos. Please, I'm begging you, leave a location or description of what you are talking about so we won't have to make anything up or guess about where you were. That really helps us out on this side of the camera. So please do that and let us know a little bit more about what you may have seen out there. Didn't make the century mark today. We came within 7 of a record high. Officially, no precipitation at the airport today, so we are now closing in on 1.5 inches for the month, and that could be due to a loss of data. We had a couple of lightning hits. Hopefully that's not causing too much of a problem, but we are now closing in on 5 inches behind for the entire year, so we could definitely and desperately use a good soaking of rainfall around here in the next several days. From the Centers for Disease Control, who keep track of data like this, they monitor more information about what goes on when it comes to fatalities, when it comes to road injuries, when it comes to COVID deaths, when it comes to firearm deaths, when it comes to lightning strikes. They keep track of all that information. So this comes directly from the Centers for Disease Control. Those of you left over from the COVID era who would shout fake science and have issues with the former director, that's your issue, and that's not what we're talking about here. But the question of the day, the average age of a lightning strike victim, 17, 27, 37, or 47. 64% of you voted for 27, and the actual answer was 37 years old on average. So 27% of you voted for that. Thank you, friendandroofing.com, for being our sponsor. And to all of you who want to vote, a new poll goes up at midnight. You can use the QR code here to vote, or you can go to our website, WDEF.com/vote now, if you'd like to participate in that. So thank you very much to everybody who has been taking part in that. One more thing, just for fun, this is coming up this weekend. The 2 major words to pay attention to here, besides science being cool and backyard astronomy. right here, weather dependent. The Barnard Astronomical Society, the local astronomical aficionados, will be holding another star party coming up this weekend, the 13th, from 8:30 to 11 p.m. at Harrison Bay State Park at the Harrison Bay Rec Hall parking area. You don't have to bring your telescopes. They will have them all set up. There'll be plenty of things to look at, and I believe into the next week or so, the moon will be at about first quarter or so, so it won't be totally blinding, but it might be kind of hazy out there and definitely will be on the warm side, so definitely want to bring some extra water along. But this is a great way to introduce your kids to a neat branch of science, being astronomy. A great opportunity to learn more. If it is going to be canceled or postponed, they will say so on their social media pages. So follow them at barnardastronomy.org. Show up to Harrison Bay State Park, learn more about what's going on with the skies, learn more about the night sky and what a good telescope brand and version is. If you want to get your kids involved and to find out more about the telescopes, these folks are the greatest ones who have the scopes and the binoculars and can recommend how you can get things set up after you purchase something. They will help you out in many different ways. So if you'd like to know more, this is the place to go to, barnardastronomy.org, and find out more at their star party coming up later on this weekend. All right, I think that's it. I'm going to try to save my voice for News 12 at 11. So I'm going to go ahead and toss things back here for a little bit. Please don't forget that if you haven't already, download our weather app, because if you haven't done so, you can catch Weather Overtime. What you're watching right now, you can scroll down to Weather Overtime, click on that section of the screen, and it'll bring up the latest edition of Weather Overtime, so you can watch it on your phone wherever or whenever you happen to be. So if you'd like to know more about that, please go to your app store, no matter which phone type you have. All you have to do is, again, download the news. Just search WDEF Weather, download the app, and you can watch Weather Overtime basically whenever you want to on there. I'll have more coming up on News 12 at 11. Kay Blevins is in for Andrew Harrison, who's taking the night off, and I believe we've got Brian Armstrong in with sports for tonight. So we've got a lot of changes, but we've still got plenty of news, weather, and sports for you at 11. And, of course, Chip Chapman has got more for you bright and early on Wednesday, peak of the week. For more details, again, stop by at 5 a.m. if you'd like to know a little bit more about what's going on with the forecast and what the heat is going to be looking at for the next several days. Don't forget also, you can follow us again at WDEF.com, and I'm on all these social media networks. And just tune in, say hello. Thanks to everybody for subscribing. A lot new followers on Twitch, so thanks for following along there. Live and direct from downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee, Tuesday the 9th of July. I'm Chief Meteorologist Austin Onek. Stay tuned for much more coming up with News 12 on air and